Find your purpose, discover your calling, follow your passion. This is probably the most generic and also most damaging self-help advice that is out there. I never really believed I could find purpose. But deep down, I always wanted it. So my entire life I was trying to find out what I was meant to do. I thought there would be a type of work that gives objective meaning to my life. That there is some sort of purpose, that once I find it, I'll wake up excited every day. Excited about my meaningless life. But now I'm 26 years old, and despite finally having found genuine contentment, it was the hope and purpose that almost destroyed me. This video is about the deconstruction of the idea of purpose, the elimination of distraction, and how this way you can discover your genuine path in life. There's this saying that goes, find out the work you love doing, and you'll never have to work a day in your life again. This is a lie. It's not just a lie. This saying is cancer, because it creates this fantasy of being able to escape a life full of work. It's like we imagine some fantasy where work isn't work anymore, where life becomes easy and we know exactly what to do, always, for the rest of our life. But I know now what I love doing. And when I started out, I felt horrible doing it. And despite loving it now, it's still work. The same happens with relationships. Everybody's looking for the perfect partner, but doesn't want to invest the time. And there's no forever lasting honeymoon phase. And oftentimes, the best relationships might have no honeymoon phase at all. It is precisely that fantasy that makes life so much more difficult, because now you have an expectation on a thing so giant and unrealistic that it can't really be enjoyed. And people do this with all aspects in their life. This way of thinking about purpose will leave you paralyzed, waiting for a feeling that never comes. The universe doesn't care what you do with your life. There's no path or no plan with your name on it. And if you don't pick your own path, society will pick one for you. And you won't like how it looks like then. Maybe you're in it right now and you notice mistakes have been made. But there's a way out. So I want to teach you how to let go of these concepts and find genuine contentment by simply knowing what you need to do. This is the actual way towards purpose. So throughout my life, I had many different interests, but I never resonated with one idea and felt like, okay, this is my purpose for the rest of my life. As a kid, I wanted to become a writer, then a reporter, a lawyer, a musician, and at the end of high school, I needed to actually take my life more seriously, so I thought I'd become a psychologist and study psychology in university. Which I think is the cop-out most people who don't know what to do with their life choose. For whatever reason, it's always psychology. But also this idea didn't stick. I couldn't trust myself to care enough about psychology on the long term. I couldn't trust myself to care about anything long enough for the long term. I just thought that I'm not capable of this type of future visions, of future-oriented thinking. That I could not really care about this way, about something. I honestly only wanted to hang around with friends and play video games. I thought that life, in like some cosmic sense, is meaningless anyway. So better enjoy it in the moment instead of worrying about the future and then having to work at some corporate job. I actually hated thinking about the future. It made me uncomfortable to think about growing older and then getting real responsibilities. I just wanted to pretend to stay young forever. Or maybe even that I'll die young anyway, so there's no need to worry. I hoped it all would magically sort itself out, but that's not how it works. It didn't. And the consequences became clearer the older I got. One of my first jobs, which was more like a side job, was as a cashier in an airport. And I just remember sitting there for 9 hours straight, moving like these products from one side to the other, and then asking the same questions every time to each person. was always about the nationality, since it was an airport, it was duty free. Always asking about their nationality and then where they were traveling. Maybe there were some other questions, but I refuse to remember right now. And it was for 9 hours, and we had 40-minute breaks. And oh my God. Now I know, or since then I knew, how horrible work can be. It's just such a soul-wrenching experience when your entire life is reduced to the most simplest, stupid, repetitive task. Sitting there doing the same hand motion over and over again. And you didn't even have time to have lunch break, because before the food got warm, you only had really 20 minutes left to eat. It was awful. It felt like you were stuck in limbo, and time wasn't passing. And this is just one day. And work is what, 35% of your life? And the other 35% is spent sleeping. So you basically turn your life into hell if you pick something you hate. And this experience showed me that it is important what I pick, or I'd imprison myself for life. But actually, I thought dying is better than this. So I needed to figure something out. And when I tried to figure something out, well, then the realization hit me that whatever job I chose, I would be kind of trapped in it. Why would I have to pick to do something or to do the same thing every day? It made me feel like life is a prison. And whatever job I pick, I'd be just imprisoning myself. And it was actually this fear of imprisoning myself that made me not choose anything at all. I refused to commit. What I ended up doing is that I ended up studying technical education, like I made a technical education study for hotel management for 2 years, because it seemed like convenient and it was likely I'm going to find jobs afterwards. And during these 2 years of studying, my life consisted about showing up to classes as minimally as possible. Like we had to reach like a certain quota, and if you didn't reach the quota, well, then you'd fail. Well, I think I was so close to not reaching the quota. But this was kind of true for anybody who went in these classes, actually. So my life consisted about showing up minimally as possible, and then I went home just to play Tekken 7 and smoke weed. And actually, I have to admit, it was actually a nice time. Like I have good memories of that time, as long as I did not think about my actual future. But once the study were over and I needed to start my internship in a hotel, the day the internship would have started, the COVID lockdown set, which then yet again derailed my entire life. So I never ended up even working at what I was studying for. And in a way, I felt kind of lucky because it was almost an easy way out. And it felt impossible to find ambition or purpose before and afterwards. It felt like that I'm just not the type of person that really cares about stuff. But I really wanted to care about something. I just couldn't. And I thought I was the problem. But then I learned that the real problem is just this entire concept of purpose in the first place. This idea of caring, of finding work you care about long term doesn't really make sense. The mindset is completely backwards. It's like searching for a ghost in an empty house, and you keep moving from room to room, but the ghost doesn't exist anyway. You're just looking for nothing at all. What I'm trying to say is, how are you even supposed to know if you care about something for the next 5 years without having done it? This is what we imagine when we think about purpose. We're thinking about some long-term thing when you can only exist in the present moment. You can only exist from one day to another. So how are you supposed to know what your next 5, 10, 20 years are supposed to look like? It's like, imagine going to like a game shop store and then looking for video games to play, and you had to play only one game for the rest of your life, and then you're staring at the covers and trying to figure out which one will be your next favorite video game forever before even playing any of them. It's absurd. It is impossible. You're trying to predict an experience you've never even had. And then you think, but what if I choose wrong? What if I waste my entire life away? And it's this fear of choosing the wrong purpose that keeps you from choosing anything at all. And ironically, that indecision is the only true waste of time. My intuition was actually correct from the start. There is no magical feeling called purpose, that once you find it, it is an epiphany that will last forever. That's just not how life actually operates. To really find a path in life, you need to follow a much simpler, more natural order to things. Marcus Aurelius understood this 2,000 years ago when he wrote in his book Meditations, and I quote, "So you were born to feel nice, instead of doing things and experiencing them? Don't you see the plants, the birds, the ants and spiders and bees going about their individual tasks, putting the world in order as best as they can? And you're not willing to do your job as a human being? Why aren't you running to do what your nature demands? You don't love yourself enough, or you'd love your nature too, and what it demands of you." This quote hit me the first time I read it, because it exposes something we modern humans hate to admit, that maybe we're not exempt from the natural order of things, that finding our purpose is a modern luxury concept that has nothing to do with regular human life. Do ants question their purpose? Does a tree wonder if it should be growing somewhere else? No. They engage with what's directly in front of them. They grow where they are planted. They do what their nature demands. It's a natural process, and it works from one moment to the other. But we think we're special. We think we need some grand narrative to justify our existence, to make our work feel important. And then also comes modern self-improvement culture into play. These egoic narratives about becoming successful and rich, and an alpha male or a powerful woman, which causes so much more feelings of inadequacy, of being just lost in life and behind, much more than is really necessary. In the actual day-to-day reality of life, most modern society humans, we live better than kings lived back in the day. If you have running water, food, and a house, and modern technology, like from a pure technical perspective, we are so fortunate and so ungrateful. And it's mostly because of these ego games that we play, because of societal expectations of what we are supposed to be already, especially with social media, where there are now so many ways to compare yourself to other lives, as if their life and your life are related whatsoever. The secret is to not look for purpose at all. What you're really seeking is engagement. That feeling of being completely absorbed in something. Think about the last time you lost track of time. Were you searching for purpose? Or were you simply playing? The boundary between play and work isn't clear at all. When you just look a little bit. When you're grinding for hours on League of Legends, for example, or when you're playing some strategy game where you need to figure out the best moves. You're doing this for like hours on end. You're taking on challenges, solving problems, and developing new skills. That's kind of work on any objective measure. The only reason you don't call it work is because you're not getting paid to do it. You just simply do it for fun. The difference really is that with this, you're fully engaged and you're freely choosing to do so. And it's not even always fun, especially if you're not playing a game as shitty as League of Legends. If you play a game as shitty as League of Legends, well, then you should actually get paid for it. But yeah, it's quite common that even when you start off a new game, it's not actually that easy to get into it. You need to learn stuff and you need to challenge your previous paradigms. An example, a pretty odd example that comes to mind here, and it is a few years ago, but it reminds me of when I played Doki Doki Literature Club for the first time in my life. My friend recommended it to me and said I needed to trust him and just simply commit to playing through it. Don't look anything up, just play it. And the first 2 to 3 hours were boring as hell. It seemed like a very basic visual novel that I just naturally never be interested in. But I took it on faith and I kept playing, and holy shit, That stupid game marked me for life. It completely subverted my expectations and delivered an experience I could have never imagined. Something I could have never chosen on my own. And especially wouldn't have expected to be this way, just looking at the cover or the first few hours of gameplay, which is not really a game, it's just a story. But it also inspired a lot of, stuff that I made afterwards. And this happens all the time. Our first impressions are wrong. Expectations have nothing to do with reality. We think we can imagine or know what we'll enjoy or find meaningful, but we are terrible predictors of our own future experiences. And this is the fundamental human arrogance. And the antidote is humility. Simply pick something, anything, and stick with it for a little while, to get past the initial discomfort and confusion, long enough to actually understand what it is. The real feeling of purposelessness is just directionless drifting, never committing enough to learn any game well enough to be engaged in it, to enjoy it. Always quitting before it gets when it gets difficult, or when the initial novelty has worn off. And in the same way, I was always waiting for that magical burst of inspiration that would reveal my true purpose. But if you're relying on this burst of inspiration, well, then you're not going to follow through, first of all, because it's not going to stay this way. And in most instances, this burst never comes, because this is just not how it works. You have another problem. You're just getting distracted so much that you have not even an idea where to start. And this goes to the second very important point of this video. I'll be honest with you. Often I have zero motivation to create a YouTube video. None. But once I simply pick an idea and start writing, something shifts. I become invested in the idea. And suddenly it's more engaging than I could have imagined an hour earlier. So, engagement follows action, not the other way around. The problem that we're having in modern society is just that we're not getting easily engaged with things, because 20 billion things are trying to grab your attention. This is the major obstacle to this approach that has to be overcome. And you need to address it actively and directly for the rest of your life. Because we're living in a world deliberately designed to fragment your attention, to keep you always distracted, always searching and consuming, and never creating. You can just ask yourself the simple question: how many tabs do you have open on your PC right now or on your phone? How many notifications are you getting per day from random ass places? How many thoughts are running in your mind that have nothing to do with what you should be doing? You can't find genuine engagement if your attention is being pulled in 20 different directions. And to realize the weight of this was a really big breakthrough for me. I realized I needed to stop adding stuff into my life and stop searching for more and more and more, and just also trying out 10 billion different things. But what I needed to do is I needed to identify everything that was draining my attention and systematically remove it. I deleted all social media apps that I checked compulsively. I uninstalled all video games that I played only to numb myself out. I stopped dealing with friends that actually they were just there for me to distract myself from my responsibilities. And I threw away all just the physical clutter in my room that, taxed me in a way that I wasn't even aware of. It feels almost too simple to be profound. But this elimination process was the foundation that changed my entire life. It made me see that so much more was possible. Oh, and I stopped getting high so much. This also was very important. When you clear all these distractions, what you do is you create space for yourself. So you create space for your natural curiosity to emerge again. And it's the same curiosity you had as a kid, before the world convinced you that you needed to be something, before you needed to find your singular purpose in life, to be a value of society. You simply existed and your value was inherent You simply enjoyed playing, and playing itself was valuable. When you do this, you start noticing what naturally draws your attention without all the clutter. And then suddenly you have a thought in the shower and it motivates you to do something new when nobody's judging or watching you, or you have nothing to prove to anybody. And it might be something that is the first step to something bigger that puts your life in a different direction. Maybe more meaningful, maybe more purposeful, maybe just to have a nice time doing something new. And this isn't some grand cosmic purpose. It's just genuine interest, which often is actually enough. All that searching for purpose is really just a way to keep all your options always open. The paradox is that unlimited options create paralysis, not freedom. Real freedom comes from limitation, from choosing one game and learning to play it well, from mastering its rules, understanding its nuances, and discovering the joy that's only available when you put in the time. The reason I pivoted so much in my life wasn't because I hadn't found my true purpose. It was because I was afraid of commitment, afraid that whatever I choose would somehow trap me forever, that I'd miss out on something better. So I chose endless distractions instead. But there is no better in an absolute sense. There's only what you choose to engage with fully versus what you just experience partially while constantly looking over your shoulder for something else. What I'm committed to now is helping people through my YouTube channel and my Existential Pathfinders Discord community. And you can join this by clicking the link in the description below. It all boils down to is this. You want to stop searching for purpose because it's an illusion that keeps moving away from you as you approach it. You want to eliminate distractions ruthlessly and create a space for natural curiosity to emerge. You want to pick something, anything, and then commit to it like a little bit longer than you're comfortable with so that you get over the beginning stage. Because whatever you do, the skills that you learn doing it will always carry over to the next thing you're doing, even if it looks like it doesn't. And then you want to pay attention to what naturally engages you. Because what is the point of having any profession if at its core it just doesn't interest you at all? And then understand that meaning emerges from engagement, not the other way around. It is pretty remarkable how we conceptualize purpose as some grand narrative that overarches in our life. And the same we do with meaning. But it's actually something that happens very organically from one moment to another. And it isn't as epic as some magical purpose you find waking up one day and then just God speaks to you himself and say, this is what you shall do for the rest of your life. But this is real, and it works. Your purpose isn't something you find. It's what emerges when you stop searching and start eliminating. When you clear away the distractions and the cultural programming and the fear of missing out, and you give yourself permissions to be fully present and to engage with what's right in front of you. You can always change games if you need to, but you have to actually play one first. The truth is, purpose is a lie if you're expecting it to be something you discover rather than something you create through consistent attention and engagement. So it's time to stop waiting for purpose to find you and to actually build it through focused attention throughout your day.